the man who chased me in the dark. So to the story. This happened to me about 2 to 3 years ago. When I was 16, I used to work at a fast food restaurant, and I live in a place where we have all seasons. At this point in time it was winter, so it got dark pretty early, around like 5 to 6 p.m. I was called to come into work this particular day, but the weather was kind of bad, causing us to not have any customers. As a result, we had to close the store early. It was about 5:30 p.m. when my manager left, locking the store and making me wait outside for my ride. About 20 minutes had passed since she left, and I was really cold, so I decided that I would walk to a friend's house just a few blocks away, about a 10-minute walk, and wait for my ride there. The store I worked at was on a busy street that was near a residential neighborhood. As I walk away from the store, I started walking down the residential street behind the store. I was walking on the sidewalk to the left of the street, as there is only one sidewalk on the right side of street. If I walked on the right sidewalk, I'd only walk on it for a block, then I'd have to walk the rest of the way on the road. There were also woods on that side of the road. It was convenient as well because on the left side of the street was my store and there were no street lights. I walked about 3-4 of the block when I got this feeling that I was being watched. The neighborhood was really dark, and at this point I had pretty much reached the end of the block and was getting ready to cross the street, when I noticed a silhouette of someone walking on the right side of the road near the woods, about 5'9", looked to be maybe 180 to 200 pounds. I couldn't make out any features though. I'm the type of person who's very aware of their surroundings and slightly paranoid, as I've been followed, almost kidnapped, stalked, etc. You get the gist. So when I noticed him, I stopped walking and immediately got a sick feeling in my stomach. The man then noticed me and proceeded to walk slowly and yell out to me. He says, "Yo, come back here." I say back, "No, I'm good." Then I turned around and start walking back to my store. He continues to yell things at me, trying to convince me to come to him. At that point, something in me told me to run, and I did just that. As I'm running, I know I shouldn't have, but I turned my head to see if he was actually chasing me, and to my horror, he was. So I turned up the speed and run as fast as I can. Thankfully, as I reached the store, my ride had pulled up, so I ran to the car. As I tried to get in, the door was locked. It took about 20 seconds for them to unlock the car, which felt like hours. But eventually I got in and just broke down crying. NGL, I'm kinda out of shape, so my back was hurting from breathing so hard, and I was all frazzled. This was the first time I was chased on foot, and let me tell you, it's so much more scary, surreal, and intense being chased on foot than someone chasing you by car. Still to this day, I have added trauma from this incident, and it makes it hard to go anywhere by myself, especially in the dark. So to the man that chased after me in the dark, let's not meet again. This happened to me and my still current boyfriend about 2 years ago. We live in a city that has a main downtown area. The main city is pretty liberal, but once you get out into the county, it can become quite the opposite. That being said, the main city, and especially the downtown area, has a pretty bad homeless problem that's only gotten worse over the years. For the most part, the homeless population is pretty harmless. They know the good spots to hang out. A lot of times they just smile at you, and I always smile back, and you go on your way. Sadly, there has been an increase of incidents in the last few years with the rise of overdoses and more addictive street drugs. I was living in the main downtown area at the time, having just recently graduated college and wanting to be close to the nightlife. My best friend that I met in college and I were roommates. We had an apartment right in the middle of downtown. It was the perfect setup. My boyfriend happened to live 1 block down and then about 5 or 6 blocks south of that. It was about a 10-minute walk, give or take. It was even closer to the heart of downtown as well. So you can imagine how convenient that made it for hanging out, and also not having to take a car and worry about parking. One overcast Sunday morning, my boyfriend and I woke up at my place and decided to walk over to his so that he could grab some things. We had walked the majority of the way. It really was just a straight walk on sidewalks the whole time. We were on the right side of the road with the street to our left. We're not 1 minute away from my boyfriend's place when I notice something ahead that makes me feel a bit uneasy. First off, there's a guy walking in front of us in the same direction we are, with his back to us. I can see he has both earbuds in. He's walking at about the same pace, so we aren't about to run into him or anything. In front of him, facing and walking towards all of us, is a different guy. He had a small frame, was maybe 5 feet 8 inches, wearing dark pants, a red sweatshirt with the hood up, and a backpack. Even though his hood was up, I could see his face. Some short black hair poked out, pale skin, and these black, beady, crazy eyes that I'll never forget. I assumed him to be homeless as it was an area that was popular for them. Now he wasn't looking at us, but rather the pedestrian with earbuds and who happened to be closer to him and in front of us. All of a sudden, I see the homeless guy run and quite literally rush the pedestrian in front of us. Like ran up and then stopped about a half foot from this poor dude's face. Since the guy had his headphones and he probably just wanted to mind his own business and walk home quietly. He was clearly taken by surprise and stopped and took one of his earbuds out to see what this crazy dude wanted. Me, while I'm a risk taker, I don't like putting myself in the wrong place when I don't need to be. This freaked me out and I didn't want the guy to notice us and come at us next, so I stepped left off the sidewalk into the street. There was a pretty big lane for street parking and it was lined with parked cars, so I conveniently hid myself from view behind a car as I continued walking. I heard this guy start yelling obscenities at the poor pedestrian, things like "I'm gonna run you over with a car. I'm going to find you." Like I said, we were not 100 feet from the entrance to my boyfriend's apartment at this point, and after witnessing that, I just wanted to be inside. My boyfriend had continued walking on the sidewalk, and in an instant I had come back in view, and we turned right towards the apartment. Now, the apartment did have a main entrance from the street side on the sidewalk, but my boyfriend had just moved in and didn't have the code for the front door yet. All he had was his fob to the parking garage that led to the stairwell up into the place. We were using that at the time to get in. We walked up to the parking garage door and clicked the button so it would start rolling up. I hadn't looked behind me at that point. I knew I probably should have, but a lot of times if you ignore the crazy people they will in turn not bother you. So I was kind of following that tactic at the moment. The garage door was open and we went inside. My boyfriend clicked the button to close it. We started the short walk to the door to the stairwell. The garage door was nearly closed, and I don't know what prompted me to look back, but I did. And what I saw still gives me the chills today. It was the homeless guy from the street. He was squeezing under the garage door while he still could. I remember the chill that ran down my spine as I locked eyes with his, and I yelled at my boyfriend, "Jack, he's following us." I'm not sure what I expected my boyfriend to do, but he pushed the door to the stairwell open and started running. That was the oh shit moment when I realized this guy had access inside, because the door to the stairwell didn't require a fob or have a lock. Me, definitely not wanting to be the closest one to this guy, took off running after my boyfriend. As I pushed the door open and got inside the stairwell, I could hear the guy behind me doing the same as it was swinging back closed. I looked back and locked eyes with this crazy guy once again and about SHT myself as I realized my only option was to keep running and try to get inside our apartment and close the door before he got there. Yes, this guy was smaller, but what really freaked me out is since he had a backpack, I had no idea if he had a knife or gun in there. I mean, SHT, why else would you chase two people and outnumber yourself? My boyfriend lived on the 3rd floor, so we proceeded to sprint up 3 flights of stairs. I could hear this guy's pounding footsteps behind me. At last we got to our level and opened to the door to the hallways and sprinted to his unit and without looking back unlocked that door as fast as we could. And slammed the door shut behind us. I remember looking through the peephole and expecting to see this guy standing there ready to yell at us, but nothing. My heart was pounding. I mean, WTF just happened? We called the cops and told them what happened to us. I'll admit they probably did all they could, but it didn't feel like enough. I was freaked out. This dude now had access to and was inside the building with access to all the apartments and residents. I just imagined him hiding in the stairwell for the next poor soul. Well, the cops came, drove around the perimeter of the complex for a few minutes. Weren't able to search inside the building because apparently they didn't have access in and left after not finding anyone. It took me forever to get the urge to finally leave that apartment to go run our Sunday errands. But we did. I'm sure the guy was just high on drugs and decided to be crazy that morning and bother some unlucky people. He probably left after he realized he was screwed if people found him there and someone else called the cops.